Hello there, and thanks for visiting the Varykino YouTube channel. I'm Christy.
And I'm Matt.
We're long-standing Star Wars fans who live and breathe Star Wars every day.
Welcome to another installment of Our Week of Star Wars, a series recapping the Star Wars fun we've had during the past week. First up, a really unique Star Wars experience for us. At the start of last week, we had the absolute treat of seeing Natalie Portman live in our home city in New Zealand.
She was here as sort of part of promotion around the FIFA Women's World Cup for football. New Zealand is one of the co-hosts this year. She was here as a special guest speaking for the finale of the Equalize series of events celebrating women in sport. It was an absolute wonderful experience to be able to see her in person. Even though she wasn't here specifically to talk about Star Wars, it was still wonderful to be, that close, getting to hear her speak. She spoke about her experience in Hollywood, her involvement with Angel City Football Club in America, which she is a co-founder, and she's been sharing some of her adventures in New Zealand on her Instagram account. So it was just a really lovely experience to be able to see her in person and just sort of celebrate, getting to meet one of my favorite Star Wars actresses.
Yeah, well, to top it off, it was actually a free event. We didn't even have to pay to go along, so there was no way we're going to miss out on an opportunity like that to see a Star Wars guest live in person so very close to where we actually live.
Yeah, it was absolutely wonderful and a highlight for us.
We've been continuing our Rebels rewatch. We're well into season 4. I know we're on the cusp of actually being able to see Ahsoka live. In fact, many of you may have actually watched this first 2 episodes by the time you're listening to this. So we do have a couple more to watch on, but we've been very much enjoying the run in between Rebels and Ahsoka. And we'll be talking about Ahsoka a heck of a lot more in upcoming Our Weeks of Star Wars episodes.
In Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes news, in the very exciting lead-up for the General Leia Galactic Legend event, I unlocked the Biker Scout, the Scout Trooper character in this game, which is kind of funny that such an iconic Star Wars character wasn't actually in the game. You were able to fight against Scout Troopers in various aspects of the game, but you were never able to add that particular one to your roster of characters, so I'm finally excited. I now have a Scout Trooper in my roster, and I'm crossing off another requirement on my journey towards unlocking the Galactic Legend Leia. When she is finally released, I'm hoping to have as much as I can ready to go. It's really fun to see the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi being celebrated in my app game. Of course, the Scout Trooper is part of the lead up to the upcoming, I hope we find out more information soon, of the upcoming guild raid that's Endor themed. I'm very excited to see what this one will entail. So it's really fun to be able to celebrate Return of the Jedi in collecting and gaming. It's just so much fun.
Something that relates to an upcoming event, but something that we experienced in particular over a few days in the past week, was the announcement of guests for the Armageddon Expo event that's coming up in our local city in October of this year. We have known for a few weeks now that there were going to be some Star Wars guests announced, and they were all confirmed over the past few days. So we're very excited that in October, in a few months' time, we'll be able to see a good handful of Star Wars guests, including Katie O'Brien, who played Elia Kane in The Mandalorian. We have met her before out of town, but it's obviously she enjoyed her visit to New Zealand enough to come back and attend the similar event in a different city in New Zealand. Joining her will be Omid Atahi, who played Dr. Pershing, and it's quite fantastic to have those 2 Mandalorian characters together because we know how much interaction they had in that particular episode of The Mandalorian. You'll all know the one we're talking about. And also from The Mandalorian, stunt performer Brendan Wayne, who wears the Mandalorian costumes, who is actually the man behind the mask in many of the scenes within The Mandalorian, will be in attendance.
Yeah, it's really fun that we've got not 1 Star Wars guest, but 3 from The Mandalorian. I think that that's quite unique. Obviously, we're a little bit of a smaller country, far-flung from the US, so it's really special for us when we can have Star Wars guests closer to home.
So that's 3 in-person guests, but there is another actual voice actor that's quite notable for us. The voice actor Troy Baker, who plays Theron Shan in Star Wars The Old Republic, will also be in attendance.
Yeah, Theron Shan. He's voiced various characters in Star Wars The Old Republic going back to the launch of the game, but Theron Shan is such a significant character. This is probably his most notable work within the Star Wars galaxy. Theron Shan is a descendant of Revan, and he was first introduced in the Forge Alliance Alliance's arc prior to The Shadow of Revan, and he's become quite a significant role in the storyline through the subsequent expansions, through the Zakul story arcs and things like that, leading up to the Valkorian story.
He's almost basically the primary quest giver for what is now the bulk of the lifespan of Star Wars The Old Republic, really. Everything past the initial release and initial story arc. So yeah, he's got quite a strong presence in that game for us, so we're quite excited that he's been included in the lineup for this Armageddon Expo event.
Yeah, obviously he is a well-known voice actor. He has a huge, big body of work, but for us as Star Wars fans, we listen to his voice weekly as Theron Shan in Star Wars The Old Republic, so that is what we are most excited about.
Among the other random Star Wars bits and pieces that filled our time, we watched a 7-minute sort of featurette on the Variety magazine YouTube channel entitled How Obi-Wan Kenobi Blended Hayden Christensen and James Earl Jones to Make a Darth Vader. This was a little excerpt that talked about the sound editing in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series from that really, really cool scene where Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi had been battling, and because of his helmet damage, Darth Vader's voice was flicking in and out of Hayden Christensen's voice and James Earl Jones's voice. I sort of loved the idea behind that.
Yeah, and I thought that this was a fascinating look at that complexity. You know, there's so much work that the sound engineers put into the world of Star Wars, from those iconic lightsaber noises and TIE fighters and things like that. And you don't really sort of necessarily always stop and think about the complexity of this. But I thought it was really interesting hearing Matthew Wood, obviously his work with Skywalker Sound, talking about the way that they sort of intercut between their two different voices and the sort of the noises of the helmet sort of malfunctioning and the complexity of doing that in a way that really sort of contributed to the powerful impact of that scene. And I thought it was also interesting that Variety published this on what was Matthew Wood's birthday. So it was kind of fun to celebrate Matthew Wood's birthday.
Matthew Wood's the supervising sound editor, who's actually the main person behind a lot of this complex sound work in Star Wars these days.
Obviously, he's known for his voice work for General Grievous and the battle droids, but yeah, he is obviously a senior person at Skywalker Sound, so I thought this was a fun way to sort of celebrate his birthday with watching him speak in his own words about his work in the Star Wars galaxy.
Yeah, that featurette focused on the sound aspects of it, but I think I particularly liked it because it focused on that specific scene, and I particularly liked that specific scene in Obi-Wan Kenobi because it was just so very cool having both Hayden and Ewan back together interacting as part of Star Wars in the way that they did for that series.
Yeah.
In terms of shopping and things that we've received over the past week, we've got quite a bit of variety to talk about.
From a few very varied sources. So in terms of things that we added to our collection this week, during a little bit of a local check around our stores, I came across the very cute Cutopia sort of plush, Princess Leia. The Cutopia range of Star Wars plush have been in New Zealand for a little while now, and we've seen Chewbacca and Baby Yoda and Stormtrooper and things like that, but I was really excited to find that Princess Leia was finally available. So of course I had to add that to my collection.
As far as we can tell, only one local retailer is carrying Princess Leia out of their entire range. I don't know why, but yeah, that was a great score that you found that.
Yeah. And we also picked up on clearance a Black Series Janna figure. This was one that was always on my shopping list, but I was hoping to find it on sale. It disappeared kind of suddenly locally, and we finally found one random one that had obviously gotten a little bit lost on the store shelves, and it was a quarter of its original retail price, so we had to pick that one up, rescue that one, and add it to our collection.
From the local online auction site, we got a couple of sets of legal tender Star Wars coins from New Zealand Mint. Now, New Zealand Mint is a company that we've been following quite closely because they are a local company, and they release these legal tender collectibles, which are quite interesting. From 2011, from the series of Star Wars coins they released over a decade ago now, we picked up two sets of coins, one silver-plated and one gold-plated, featuring characters from the original trilogy in special collector's cases, and we'll be taking a closer look at those on this channel very, very shortly. But those were a great score because they are in some ways a local collectible, and they're quite unique, and we got them for what we felt was a very, very fair price.
We also picked up matching Star Wars Stormtrooper shirts locally. As I mentioned in the past, we don't always have the same taste when it comes to Star Wars apparel, but I spotted this Stormtrooper t-shirt with this gold foil print. We both really loved it, so we picked up one each because we couldn't decide who wanted it more, so why not get both?
Yeah, I very much like that print. It's based on a scene on the Death Star from from A New Hope. And it's also a representation of Stormtroopers that's been used in other products in the historic past from vintage collectibles that I'm familiar with. Some stationary items that had those Stormtroopers in similar poses. And so, yeah, I very much like that Stormtrooper original trilogy kind of vibe that it's got going on.
And lastly, but certainly not least, a very big box arrived from a Sideshow. Now, I haven't had the chance to open this one just yet. We've had a busy week, but as soon as I can, I'm going to take this one out of its box and hopefully record an unboxing to share here on the channel. This is the Sideshow Rey Premium Format statue, as she is seen during her battle on the ruins of the Death Star against Kylo Ren, with all those waves crashing around. I love Rey. I have a Rey themed collection of items. I have the original Jakku Rey premium format. So when this one came out, I was really hoping to be able to add her to my collection, and she's finally arrived. I can't wait to open this one up.
That's it in terms of things we actually purchased or found it via retail. We also received a generous gift from a friend who sent up a couple of 3D glasses from the 3D release of The Phantom Menace from a few years back that come from the actual Lucasfilm store. So the cases and the glasses themselves are actually branded with Lucasfilm. And this is a fun collectible for us because we are fans of all sorts of collectibles, not just product that's released commercially, but any sort of ephemera or things representing events. And we did see The Phantom Menace in 3D locally in cinemas when it was released a good few years now, over 10 years actually. A little bit of a shame that we didn't get all of the prequel trilogy films released in 3D locally, but we did see and very much enjoy seeing The Phantom Menace. So these 3D glasses with Lucasfilm branding tie into that, and very, very fun to have.
Yeah, and a really thoughtful gift from a wonderful friend.
In terms of videos that we've recorded, edited, and published on our YouTube channel, in no specific order, amongst the videos that we released were 3 Funko items. We opened up our Funko Max Rebo, which we're very excited to have. He's a fun figure, I really feel, because it includes his organ, his musical organ from the Jabba's Palace scene that he's obviously famous for. He also did show up in subsequent series, Book of Boba Fett, of course. I think that's a really cool figure because he's such a cartoony character that translates very well into Funko form, and I love the fact that I've got a big accessory incorporated into the sculpt.
Yeah, I was almost a little surprised that this one was in a standard-sized Funko box. Sometimes Funko nudges up those slightly bigger ones into the higher price range, but he's such a fun, cute character in this Funko form. Some of the other Funkos we took a closer look at were the very recently released Young Leia with Lola from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. I'm so excited to finally add her. She was such an important character in that series, and I thought it was a little bit odd that she wasn't included in the first wave of Funko figures for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, but I'm very happy to finally have her in my collection. And thirdly, I also take a look at the comic art inspired Emperor Palpatine figure that came out a little while ago, but it has such unique packaging and such unique paintwork that I really wanted to take it out of the box and take a closer look. I also unboxed a recent parcel from Oasis Scents, a local boutique New Zealand company doing fandom-inspired scented products. So I unboxed a couple of products I picked up from them, which included a Carbonite Reed diffuser and a Kanan Jarrus-inspired scented candle. Absolutely wonderful. We love to add little Star Wars-inspired touches around our home, and we love Oasis Scents range.
Obviously, some of the videos we release are a little bit inspired by current Star Wars events and current Star Wars affairs. So we've had a little bit of an Ahsoka focus building, and that's going to continue to build over the next little while. But it also ties into another significant event or anniversary to celebrate the Clone Wars 15th anniversary, which occurred on the 14th of August. So this is the anniversary of the theatrical release of the Clone Wars movie. We focused our 10 Star Wars Things episode on Clone Wars Season 7 version of Ahsoka Tano.
In our regular series, 10 Star Wars Things, we highlight 10 assorted Star Wars collectibles from our collection on a specific theme. And so, as you say, to celebrate the anniversary of Ahsoka's first appearance in that Clone Wars movie back all those years ago, 15 years ago, I decided to take a look at a particular version of Ahsoka that I'm particularly fond of, which is her appearance in the final season of Clone Wars. There wasn't as much Ahsoka-themed merch when the show first first came out, that version of young Ahsoka when we first meet her. There is certainly a lot more Ahsoka merch now, and I particularly like the 7th season of Clone Wars, so I decided to pick that as a focus and highlight 10 Ahsoka items from our collection, including items from Hot Toys, Funko, and Hasbro. It was really fun getting those out and celebrating Ahsoka in the lead up to her very own live action show airing very, very soon. And following on from that, I also shared a video with a dedicated unboxing and closer look at the Kotobukiya Art Effects Clone Wars Season 7 Ahsoka Tano Escape from the Clones figure. This is a wonderful snap fit pre-painted figure that all fits together to make a wonderful statue. I love the pose. I love the paintwork. It is honestly one of my absolute favorite Ahsoka pieces in my collection. It is really wonderful.
Yeah, you say you love the pose and the paintwork, but I think we're both really honed in on the fact that this is a fantastically executed collectible in terms of its sculpting and manufacture.
Yeah, I know that for a lot of people, plastic kind of ranks a little lower compared to the polystone and resin items from Gentle Giant and Sideshow, but there's something about the fine execution of this figure. The detail is really well done, and when you snap all those pieces together, it looks amazing.
Yeah, I don't think you ever have to second guess product that comes out from Kotobukiya under that Artifacts Plus brand. It's always very well thought out and very well executed.
It's an absolute stunning piece. So those were the YouTube videos that we shared of our Star Wars collectibles this week. And on a personal note, it was a little bit of a sad week for us as we lost one of our dear beloved cats, Ginny. Our dear sweet teddy bear was with us for 12 years, and we will always treasure her time with us.
So today's installment is dedicated to that very important member of our feline family. We'll be back with another episode very soon, so thanks for listening to this installment of our week of Star Wars. We appreciate you taking your time to listen to us.
And stay tuned for another episode next week. And as always, may the Force be with you. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.